Hi, I'm Karen Rice and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be painting a step-by-step Poppies watercolour painting. Why not come along and join me? If you'd like to see a longer video with lots more voiceover, why not check out my Patreon membership? Details about that are in the description below. Okay, shall we get started? I'm using core watercolour paints. Pyrole red, ultramarine blue, Hansa yellow light and Quinacridone gold. For alternative colours, please see the description below. I've got my Twig. The paper I'm using is Arches rough paper and I've taped around the edge with framing tape and just to give it a nice white border afterwards. So as you can see here, I'm using rough 140-pound paper. 9 by 12 inches. I really like this paper. It's got a lovely surface. And here's the lovely reference photograph I'm going to be using. The link for this photograph will be in the description below. So I'm going to get started mixing up my colours for my first stage. So I'm mixing up some watery ultramarine and then I'm going to mix up some watery Pyrole red. So I'm really kind of getting these colours prepared, and now I'm using the Hansa yellow light with the Quinacridone gold with a touch of the blue to make a sort of a mustard colour almost. Now you could use yellow ochre or raw sienna with the yellows for this as well, so don't worry. But I'm sort of varying the colours, so I've got sort of a lighter greeny mustard colour and then adding a little bit more of the blue. So I'm giving my brush a good rinse now. And I've changed my water and I'm wetting the surface of the paper with my large size 14 round brush. All the materials I'm using are in the description below, along with the Amazon links if you would like to purchase them. I am just mixing a little bit more of the blue sky there because it got all contaminated, but actually it was a happy accident because a little bit of red ran in there. I decided I would go for that sort of more of a purpley sky, and I'm just tilting this wash now, just getting the paint moving and flowing. I'm using the size 10 brush to apply the paint. I just put a little bit more colour there. It wasn't dark enough, so I'm just putting a little bit more bluey sort of purpley colour there. I don't want too much colour, too much sky in that sort of just that top sort of third there towards the bottom of it, because that's where all my sort of poppies are going to go. And if you look at the reference photograph, there's no sky, it's all light, isn't it? It's so white, the sky. So that's why I'm doing that. So it's just at the top, just to kind of frame it really. So now I'm mixing up this sort of mustardy colour now, painting it on. It's wet in wet. I'm using the size 10 brush and sort of, you know, going sort of a zigzaggy up and down, so you've got some nice pointy bits at the top there. And I'm just mixing a bit more Quinacridone gold to that wash and a little bit of the blue just to make it a little bit darker. And as you can see, it's not too watery because now this is damp into wet, so your paint isn't as wet as the actual surface of the paper. So just mix it up here. It's really just sort of mustardy sort of colours, and I'm just trying to get that sort of look of grasses and things in the foreground. Now I've cleaned my palette and I've got a little bit of the red mixed up with a tiny touch of the yellow. There's not a lot of water into this because remember the paper is damp now, so I don't want to do too much wet paint, so it's less water in the paint. And I'm just putting in some of these orangey red sort of poppies, damp into damp. and I'm going to start painting some of the seed heads and the buds, and I'm using the Hansa Yellow Light with the Ultramarine. And again, there's not loads of water in here, I've just added a touch of the Quinacridone Gold as well. So I'm actually mixing up some more creamy paint, and I'm using the size 6 brush, and I'm just painting some of the foliage in the foreground. I've drawn my main poppy in. There's no other drawing besides this main poppy. So I'm going to paint all the poppies with Pyrole red plus the yellow. So you could use any red and yellow. I'm painting it wet on dry using my size 6 brush, painting very simple shapes, dropping in water and having fun. So I've been painting some of my seed heads in using my size 4 and size 2 round brush, using the Ultramarine, the Hansa Yellow Light and the Quinacridone Gold, and I'm actually lifting off some light areas with my kitchen towel. So I'm going to use my twig now. So before I do, I'm making a puddle of paint. It's the best way when you want to use your twig. So I mixed up the Ultramarine with the Hansa Yellow, and I'm now drawing the stems of the poppy, the seed heads and the buds. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my size 6 brush, and I'm just painting some of these little leaves in here, some of this texture in the foreground, using a very similar colour that I use at the beginning of the painting. That's the Quinacridone gold with the ultramarine, or maybe the ultramarine with the Quinacridone gold plus the Hansa yellow. So I've varied those two colours here and there, and then I'll use that colour to paint the buds, and I'll use my twig again to draw in the stems for those buds. And I've mixed up ultramarine with the Pyrole red with Quinacridone gold to make a really dark colour, and it really does, it's super dark. And I'm using my size 6 brush, and I'm just painting the bottom of the poppies where it's dark, and I'm also adding the dark centres as well. What I'm doing now is I'm using my size 2 brush, I'm just using some red, and I'm just painting over the top of the poppies that are now dry, and I'm just putting some marks in there, just some of the creases in the petals, just to give a bit of detail. And as you see here now, I've actually put some kitchen towel on the sky area, and I'm just spattering red, just red on its own. I'm using my large size 14 brush, and I'm just spattering a little bit of the green, and both of these spatters are to show smaller poppies and smaller seed heads. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to see more like it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.